at that point. The only, later in the war with the SCR 584, which was the first auto tracking, was linked with the 90mm guns.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
yeah.
those were deployed, I guess, late 44, just after, because there were a few sets immediately preceding the D-Day invasion. And after that they came into wide use and, as you probably know, were responsible for taking out a lot of the so-called vengeance weapons that the Germans were hurling at the UK. Yeah. So anyway, I've converted this into Radio 2.
All right, and these are
that's a Meisner 150.
Yeah.
An interesting set. It's called a 150, or it is a 150B. It's a military set in that it was purchased, as I guess you could say, off the shelf by the military at the beginning of the war. It was probably, the history of it is actually a little obscure. It was probably being built by Meisner as a ham transmitter or general purpose transmitter, but it was picked up immediately by the Signal Corps, but not given a Signal Corps designation, which is curious. It's one of the few sets that did not have a BC number.
That was during the Second World War.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just bought the radio as is.
Right. Exactly, and they put a nameplate on it that says Type 150B, but it's the Meisner signal shifter, which most old time hams will recognize. The signal drifter is what it's also called. But it is a thing of beauty. It's a single 813 modulated by a pair of 811s, but it does put out a very healthy 150 watts, and really sounds quite good. I use mine with a carbon mic, and I get very, very good reports from it. So,
yeah. What is this radio here?
These are shipboard twins. You'll recognize these from the Salem.
Oh yeah.
That was the Navy's standard World War II receiver pair, RBB, RBC, covering 500 kc to 4 megs and then 4 to 27. This is the Navy's version of the ART-13. It's essentially an ART-13 on an AC supply, the ART-13 being developed for aircraft use, auto-tune. This is the Navy's version, a TCZ.
And ARC-5s here?
Yeah, a pair of ARC-5 receivers and a single 75-meter ARC-5 transmitter, and then another famous Navy set built by Collins, the TCS. And then there's a BC-348, of course, another well-known set, often paired with the ART-13.
Yeah. That was the novice radio.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're relatively inexpensive. And what is this here, bro?
Now this is a true thing of beauty. The SCR 506, built by General Electric. And it was a mobile set. Actually, the dynamotor's here, which I have out of it, because to run this I'd need 27 batteries, and they'd only last about 3 minutes. But a pair of 814s in the final puts out about 80 or 75, 80 watts AM, but very low power, or 75 or 80 watts of CW, but low power AM. It's a suppressor grid modulated set. But these were used in many mobile installations, predominantly in the back of the 3/4 ton Dodge Command car. And that was my first Johnny Novice receiver that a guy gave me, and he was probably responsible for infecting me with the military collector bug.
Yeah.
And look what's happened.
How many of these radios do you actually use on the air? Almost all of them?
I try to use all of them. I don't like, I mean, I have a lot of junk, and I do have quite a few parts rigs, but I like to have a piece of gear, and I like to make it work.
Right. And almost all of this stuff is in operating condition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
3885 mostly?
Yeah, usually.
Military net on Saturday morning at 5 a.m.?
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, I was on this morning with the stuff in the garage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is an interesting set in that the receivers were, you saw quite a few of them, but the transmitters were elusive, primarily because they were so heavy, so bulky, and it was an early attempt at channelization through presets, but tunable presets, in other words, not crystal controlled. And so it wasn't really that successful, although they lasted into the Korean War period. It's interesting, do you know the CQ Surplus Schematics Handbook?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, as the preface says, it was prepared by the editors of CQ in self-defense because of the deluge of inquiries for schematics.
Yeah.
But they have some lovely little quirks, and one of them is regarding this. Under its schematic, the BC 653, it says, This is 400 pounds of nothing. And it takes the patience of Job to sort out the tuning units.
Yeah.
Comma. Actually, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
If you can get it running. Yeah. So anyway, I finally got one of these transmitters. I've only had... I actually found it at Fair Radio.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, but it came to Fair Radio via Europe.
Yeah.
Most of these things were left along with the vehicles and most of the ordnance over in Europe at the end of the...
Yeah, well, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, it came back to Fair, I think, via Italy. And I was lucky I was able to go through 4 sets that he had out there and put together a complete one, and it runs.
Yeah.
And also has another lovely little quip in the CQ schematics book, which says BC 375 made in huge quantity for wartime destruction by the people at One River Road, Schenectady, New York, who almost had heart attacks when they received an Arc 5 for test comparisons, which was a fraction of the size and weight, infinitely more stable, and put out twice as much power.
Yeah. The Arc 5, the old standby, right?
A thing of beauty.
Yeah.
A real thing of
Complex,
beauty.
simple.
But
Yeah.
effective.
And
simple
easy
design.
to maintain.
Yeah. And as a fellow pointed out who I had a conversation not too long ago about it, it's also a comparison of design by committee, which is the BC 375, and design by a competitor.
Yeah.
By someone who's trying to actually build something that's practical. So.
Really? Huh. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Oh yeah. Radio. He's inside. Oh man, who's TV? A1DT should be showing up. Oh yeah.
To watch it do its thing.
That's the antenna tuner?
Yeah.
For HF or for...
HF, yeah.
For HF, okay. And this is set to Quonset Point here, huh? 126, 350.
Good copy from Pat 1319 over 3 minutes this time.
A thing of beauty. The Collins 180 R6 automatic antenna tuner.
Brand new, right?
Well,
Almost, huh?
No, this dates from the 60s, but it's been refurbed a couple of times. Unfortunately, when I got this thing, there's a set of rollers in here that were made out of rubber. And this thing turns on it, the coil. Well, the rubber died and the thing jammed, and the servo motor's strong enough, it broke the ceramic.
Oh.
You can see where it's cracked. So I had to take it all apart, and I just epoxied it back together. I got lucky.
Yeah.
I have spares, but I didn't want to dismantle the whole thing and put it back. But I got it working.
Good.
Lights 50 ohms.
Could you do that and tune that again, and I can put it off frequency, and I'll just see what it does here? And this is...
It's going to its so-called home position.
Home position?
It goes to the lowest inductor setting.
Yeah.
I gotta wait for it to... And then I'll key it. And it's tuning itself. It makes itself happy.
Yeah, it likes the antenna, right?
Well, it likes the dummy look.
Yeah.
It's not happy with this antenna and this setup, and it's probably because of the interaction.
Show us, John. Show us you have 1 5,000 and below.